All right, guys. This is Juice. Thanks for tuning in to Thursday's game update. Pretty excited to show you guys this. I feel like I made a lot of progress in Blender. This is my first time using Blender. Didn't really realize going into the game design process that it's actually very design intensive, and you had to if you're not getting assets, either buying them or getting them for free on various repositories, then you have to make it from scratch. And so I decided, I'm at the beginning of my journey, so I may as well gain some experience in the design aspect of game design. So for this game, you play as a Jaguar, and so I figured I might as well start with designing the Jaguar. Last installment, I showed you. I don't know if I even showed you what I was working on in Blender, but based on the workflow that I kind of set up last week, I decided that I wanted to roll out kind of a rudimentary model of a Jaguar and get a skeleton in there by today. I was able to successfully complete the first part of my objective, which was getting the rudimentary mesh, the rudimentary design, but I was not able to get the skeleton in there. So maybe, just kind of because this is new to me, learning what I'm able to do and what I'm not able to do. And, I'm getting a better feel for what's realistic in terms of setting goals, at least performance or, goals that I have to deliver on the weekly basis. But that being said, I think this was a really slow burn. It took me 2 days to do the legs and the tail of the Jaguar just because I had to learn what all the shortcuts were to get to the tools that I needed to use, how to add topography, how to, in like a simple way, how do you smooth things out, how do you extrude, in what ways can you extrude, and then also a lot of this stuff has to be symmetrical. So instead of designing the whole Jaguar from scratch, I basically cut in half from the top-down view and designed the left side. And so everything on the left side was mirrored across the right side. And so with that in mind, just needing to be cognizant of how the tweaks that I make on one side are going to affect the other side was super important. Also, just kind of using reference images, it was like a whole ordeal for me. Finding a side view that I thought would fit and would be to scale in the game. That was difficult, and then also figuring out how I'm supposed to size each reference image in relation to each other, right? Because the front view is very clearly a different image than the side view that I was using as a reference image. And I was having a lot of trouble actually manipulating the reference images themselves. But that was because I was stuck in edit mode and I didn't realize that I had to change views to be able to manipulate those reference images. But once I figured that out, I was more easily able to use that front reference image to design the head of the Jaguar, the paws, all those kinds of things, and kind of keep it in proportion with what I'm looking for. So I guess kind of getting back to this section, I was just designing the torso of the Jaguar. This is me kind of pulling in that front reference image, figuring out how to line it up. And I didn't really know how to do it, so I was kind of just moving the the mesh, the model, and I also didn't know how to hide stuff. So learning how you can hide things, just things that kind of you develop and learn as you go. All this stuff was learning curve stuff, and once I kind of got a grasp of it, progress was a lot faster. I think the thing that I was really struck by was, or at least I tried to be cognizant of, was it's probably better to be on the side of simplicity than complexity. So a lot of times, or at least I found that you can, if you add a whole bunch of divisions and basically increase the complexity of the topology, you can get a lot more complex rounded shapes that look more realistic. But at the same time, all that stuff needs to be calculated and by the computer, and so that means it's going to be more what what's the word I'm even looking for? It's going to be more resource intensive for your computer, so performance will go down. So yeah, so I was kind of going through things, just adding topology here and there, and then I realized, hey, I should probably try to make things as simple as possible, reduce some of the divisions, reduce some of the lines. And so as I kind of came to that conclusion, the process got a little bit faster. And I was following this YouTube tutorial. I don't know if it comes up, but it was done by what's this guy? I'm gonna look it up for you guys because this was actually like I wouldn't have been able to do this if I didn't have a tutorial to kind of help me along the way. So yeah, I'll cut and get back to you guys with that. So I tracked it down, and the channel's name is Pixo 3D, so Pixxo space 3D, and he had a 3D cat YouTube Blender series where he literally went through the entire stages of designing a cat in Blender, and so I wanted to do something similar, but not exactly the same. And it was just good to be able to watch that video side by side, pause things, go back, think about, you know, is what he's doing something that I can emulate in this Jaguar model, or is it something where I kind of just have to explore and figure it out for myself? Like, what parts, so like specifically here, right? This reference image did not have the feet on a level plane. Well, they were on a level plane, right? Like they're touching the ground. But when I was designing in Blender, because I was using a mirrored approach, I wouldn't be able to have them staggered like that, right? So they'd have to both be in the same position. And so I had to decide to pick which foot that I was going to model. And so I decided to use the back foot, which was flush with the ground. And I thought that would be probably easiest because then I don't have to do any like calculations or manipulations with regards to like limb length and stuff, making sure that if I have stuff in bent positions and elevated above the ground, when everything's fully extended and when all the leg muscles are in full extension, will that both of those legs be even with the ground, was something that I was a quandary that I was kind of going through and thinking about. But I decided, I'm just going to pick the easier way to do things, keep it simple. And then, so yeah, so this whole process was really just me looking up tutorials, looking up how to do specific things that I wanted to do in Blender. One thing that I noticed is that like you can move all your vertexes and points, edges and planes. You can move all of that in 3D space, but for the sake of symmetry, a lot of times you want stuff to snap to other vertexes or be pseudo projections of other vertexes to kind of keep everything in the same plane with the same alignment. And so because that wasn't necessarily provided in the YouTube videos, a lot of times I had to pause and break and look up online, all right, how do I extrude something only along this dimension? How do I scale something only in XYZ dimension? How do I scale a limb and have it universally interact with the entire size of the whole model as it's connected? Or how do I scale parts of things in a vacuum, sort of by themselves? So yeah, so I got a face, I made some eye holes, I need to make eyeballs, and I made a mouth and jaw. But this is the Jaguar that I designed. I'm looking to get the skeleton in there next week, That's going to be, deliverable number one, and then hopefully get some fur, get some coloring, get some claws. That'll be the secondary objective, and then in weeks beyond, it'll be getting animations down and then popping them into the game, and we'll go from there. So, as always, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all of you guys. Give me comments, feedback, tips, and stay tuned for Fitness Friday tomorrow. Oh, also one thing, I'm going to be traveling, so I mean, this is doesn't impact you guys. This is something that I have to figure out, but I'm thinking about ways that either how I'm going to record. I guess I'll just do it on my phone, but that it'll just make things a little bit more difficult because I wanted to present kind of the more in-depth version of Juice Camp. But if I'm not going to have access to slides or any screen recording stuff, then I'm not. I guess I'm just going to do it. What's the word? Extemporaneously, just on the fly. Yeah. So stay tuned. There will be a video coming out. I just don't know what it's going to look like and what exactly it's going to cover. But I digress. Thanks again for tuning in. See you tomorrow. Stay juicy.